So my name's Michael Scholes. I wrote the first thing here. Michael, it's not about you. Okay. So I started in wellness in 1982. Who was around in 1982? Anybody? People around in 1982. So I came from England to the US, and I left England because I felt there was more to discover about myself than I could ever get from England. If you've ever been to England, especially the north, they're cannibals in that place. They drink, they go to soccer, they're misogynistic, they're narcissistic. So I thought there must be something more. So I came to the States in 1982. I was involved for about 5 years in all things wellness, and then I discovered essential oils in 1987. And the teacher I met was a medical doctor who was French, and a pharmacist who was also French. So I met two people who were even today, the leading figures in the subject. Now, if you were a Catholic, any Catholics here? Let's imagine that you just became a Catholic and you just bumped into the Pope about 1 minute later. That would be quite significant, right? So I thought this was significant, and within 5 minutes of talking to these two gentlemen, I decided this was something I was going to do for the rest of my life. And if you know anything about me, I'm a man of my word. So when I say something, I do it. I say what I mean what I say. This journey of aromatics has been so amazing because it is so complex. There's maybe 100 topics within the topic of aromatics, not just the essential oils, but from the point of view of where they're derived, how they're distilled, how they're applied, their safety, and also from a research point of view. And you really can't learn about essential oils from books or Google. You really have to experience it. So I'm what they call a master formulator. I gave myself that title, why not? I don't know anybody else who's a master formulator. And the reason why I'm a master formulator is because I know about essential oils. So I started off teaching for about 5 years. I didn't sell anything. And then somebody one day said to me, I really like that lavender you passed around. How can I buy some? And I went, well, it's not really for sale. And then after the third time somebody said it, I decided, maybe I'll carry a few oils. So I think I had my first price list, which I've got in my archives. I had 20 essential oils, and now I have 650.
Ooh, wow.
Which is more than enough. And somebody said, why would you need 650 essential oils? I'm a collector, so I don't have any food in my refrigerator, but I've got plenty of oils all over the house. I can't resist if I see a new sample, or I see a new variety, or I see something that was not organic before but now organic. So I have about 28 different lavenders in my collection, and you think, is it lavender? Maybe, but lavender not only is different in the location it grows, also it's different in the country of origin. Just like wine, lavender has to feed on something, and it has to feed on the soil, and certainly there's certain soils that have a more advantageous effect on the chemistry of that particular oil. Also the subspecies of lavender. If you were to lay them end to end, you would smell them. You think they all smell like lavender, but if your nose was engaged, where you really could now pick up the different nuances and subtleties, you would see that they're all completely different. When I formulate according to what I think the best lavender would be in that particular blend. I also created 1,750 formulas over that period of time, and I created a master set. At some point, if I was a composer or I was a musician and I'd been singing for 40 years, wouldn't I make a compilation album of the best I ever did? So I came up with 100 different formulas, and this is what I created. It's a therapeutic roll-on remedies. And each remedy has a different color cap. And my thought about health and wellness may be very similar to yours, in the sense that for me, 90% of all illnesses is lifestyle. Would you agree?
Yes.
And it's not to say that you're doing something wrong, but it's difficult when you're going home. You think, I should go to Trader Joe's or buy all these ingredients, but it's already 9 o'clock, and I would like to make that chicken soup that my mother used to make from the organic chicken, but it's also 10:30. That pizza next door is looking really good right now. That's not to say it's good or bad, but if you were eating pizza as your only food, then expect to have some digestive problems sometimes. So lifestyle is one thing. Secondly, all illness comes from inflammation. Agreed? And what is inflammation? It's like something growing bigger, something's expanding outside the realms of normal. And what is a precursor for cancer? Inflammation. So if you ever see, I'm not saying all cancers, I'm not medically qualified to say that, but there is some form of inflammation in every single part of our lives that causes us to go out of balance. And then the third thing is immune system. Because if your immune system is not strong, your immune system won't catch what's happening in your system. So if you were to increase your immune system and also prevent the inflammation from going beyond where it's at, and also change lifestyle, you could do a lot of good things for yourself. How would you change that? Full wellness involves, I'm a fully wellness-driven person, which means that anything that goes into my mouth I think about before I put it in there. I like expensive coffee. And if you're one of those coffee people who are spending $6 a day on a cup of coffee, you know that you've got a $300 a month habit. But I won't have 2 coffees. And I won't have it at a certain time. So I like to have it at the same time every day so my body gets used to processing it through. And I want a coffee that probably is better cared for. It's a better brand. It's got the right filtration, the right water, the temperature, the pressure. I want to see that heart in the middle of it. I don't want to see a bunch of mush in there. I want somebody to show me that is somebody cared about. Now, add that to every single thing you do. So if you go to a restaurant and the food is not prepared, does it change the way you digest your food? Yeah, you want it to look beautiful, right? You want it to be the right temperature. It has to look visually pleasant. And if you're in good company, maybe slow down and eat slower so your body can digest and get what it needs from the food as opposed to indigestion because you are not chewing or you are not breaking it down. So lifestyle is a big thing. So coming back to the essential oils, what are they? First of all, essential oils are nothing more than concentrated natural products from nature. All the plants that I have an essential oil from comes from nature. And at one point it looked like a tree, it looked like a bush, it looked like a flower. And I don't know how many, I think there's like a billion species on the planet of different plants, but of that massive amount of plant species, only about 1,000 plants, not all aromatic plants can be distilled, only about 1,000 plants are used for extraction purposes. Would you think if it's 1,000 out of a billion or a multi-million, do you think it would be important to pay attention to the plants that can be distilled? If you're smelling lavender if you ever get given lavender, you think to yourself, this is a beautiful smelling, you can smell it from the plant. What happens if you distill it? Distillation is like alchemy, where you're basically, you're putting under high pressure and heat and extracting it just like your digestive system. Your digestive system is an alchemical process. That's why you have to take care of your digestion system, which is why the gut is such a problem today, and why digestion is an issue. Because if you have stress to digestion, you're going to probably end up with some kind of irritable bowel or SIBO or something like that. So when I think about distillation, it's a magical process that takes these molecules, these delicate molecules, and then puts them into a form where it's concentrated enough, where it's 100 times concentrated than dry herbs. And then you can actually pour it into a bottle, into a concentrate, and it looks like these oils here that I brought around. So I'll just start passing the oils around. You can look at what it says on it if you want to. You can basically smell, sorry, I don't want to really give it to you. No, I'm just, that's mine. So just give it a quick smell, then look at it. Don't look at it and then smell. Because what you'll do is you go, wow, this smells so good. Oh, lavender, I really hate lavender. Because our minds tell us something different than what we're feeling. These concentrated essential oils, which are highly potent, now can be stored in these little tiny bottles, 70 to 100 times more concentrated than dry herbs. One drop is the equivalent of a handful of plant material. And they last for decades. You might hear that they go off in 2 years. Maybe citrus oils, which are full of terpenes may change over a period of time depending on temperatures. I've got essential oils in my collection that's 37 years old, and some of them got better, and some of them are completely stable. So that indicates that if you had 100 of these in your life, you could probably carry them around in your car, you could put them in your house, you could probably travel with them, and you would have every single thing you would need. Now, what's the difference between one essential oil and another? It's the chemistry. So like anything in life, if you were to look at the chemical constituents of an essential oil, you'll find that some are better for spasms and indigestion, some are good for, like, to increase your mental capacity, some are good for pain, some are good for inflammation, some are good for opening the heart. And then if we go into the chakras, which is what this entire store represents, when you think about the chakras and you think about these spinning vortices of energy, we're starting from the sacrum right to the crown, you'll see that these energies are very complex, and that it's easy to diagnose it's easy to put information out there about which essential oils would be good for what chakra. Something earthy would be good for the root chakra, and something purple, like lavender perhaps, would be good for the crown chakra. And the idea being is that when you align these parts of your bodies energetically, you feel more balance. When you feel more balance, you feel less anxiety, and inflammation goes down. So the idea of finding peace within, for not chasing every single moment every day, where you're running from something or running to something, where there's nothing in between. This idea of wearing ourselves out, where younger people are dying in their 30s from colon cancer, and people are having heart attacks and falling dead from jogging around the street. There's something severely wrong in our culture. And if you think about dementia, what would be dementia? Dementia would be the wearing out of your brain in a very short period of time. Your brain is designed to last a long time. So if you've got dementia in your 60s, you're 20 years before your brain is giving up. And why? Because we're constantly thinking. If you're constantly thinking about something, are you present?
No.
Are you aware?
No.
Are you conscious?
No.
You're somewhere else. Here's you, and there's another person over here is worrying about everything, but it's causing the underlying aspects of anxiety, inflammation, disturbances, and early termination on some level. Doesn't mean you're dead. It just means that part of your body may be dead at some point, because you are literally, where do we store the energy of our worries? Some people store it here, which is a really common place to store it. And have you ever eaten something and then got bad news and then you feel nauseous and sick and constipated, or you go to the bathroom and you go, I don't know. It's almost like the bad news went into here. What happens if you're feeling it in your heart? Anybody ever breakup ever? And you feel that pain in your heart, and no matter what you do, you can't escape it. What about if it's in your throat? Thyroid problems possibly? What about in the third eye, which is where the pineal gland is? Anybody know what the pineal gland does energetically? It regulates light. And light is what we need to clear out the darkness. The darkness is not the evil. The darkness is the energy that's around us that's heavy. So light is regulated with the pineal gland. So if you want to see your life from a different perspective, work on the third eye. What's the crown? The crown is your connection to something more than yourself, whether that's religion or whether it's a god or some form of spirituality. So the crown chakra is here. And then you've got down below, you've got the solar plexus, which is your personal power. And then you've got your navel chakra, your creativity, and your root chakra, which is where you're grounded. Anybody grounded here today? In this moment, maybe you're grounded. Were you grounded earlier? No, we're running from something to something. And what happens when you're not grounded is we make errors, we leave our phone somewhere, we forget to do this, we forget to do that. I think I spend at least 15 minutes a day looking for my wallet or my phone. And I wonder sometimes where it is. Now, why is that? Because my mind is already doing the next thing when I'm thinking about the present day. So how do essential oils work? When you smell an essential oil, it's actually unique. You don't even have to take the bottle and put it under your nose. I'll pass another one around. You don't even have to put it under your nose The molecules are already out of the bottle, and they're already in you. They may be in you before you take the cap off, because our brains are wired for fragrance and scent. Let's imagine for a minute there's 1,000 plants, and of those plants may be a combination of anywhere from 3 to 30,000 different molecules. First of all, why are those plants even there? Where did they come from? Evolution will tell you that from nothing became something. Now, whenever did nothing become something good in your life? How is it possible to go from nothing to something? So when you think about the natural world and you think about where it came from, somebody, whoever was the grand designer, knew that we have all these problems, and to counterbalance it, they put all the antidotes into nature. The brain is wired for fragrance, and every single aromatic molecule that you'll smell, there's a receptor in your brain for it. You have a choice with the receptor. You can either put something real, which would be natural, something that came out of nature, or you can put something possibly synthetic. I'm not saying it could be a pharmaceutical drug, or it could be a synthetic. Today, people think that synthetics are fragrances. I just was in Italy. I went to the oldest pharmacy in the world. It's in the middle of Florence. It's been there, that same building, since 1500. It says natural pharmacy above it, hasn't changed. Every single thing in there is synthetic. It just moved. Why? Because we're in a cost-filled environment. We're in a cost-conscious environment. There's not enough. These oils are really expensive. I have an agar wood that is $32,000 a kilo. You'd be glad to know I don't have a kilo. I have 1 ounce of it. I have a rose that was $14,500 a kilo. How is that going to pass itself through into a world where everything is $9.99? The brain has a receptor for these molecules, and every time a molecule hits the receptor, it resets your brain, it resets your digestive system, it resets your mental processing, how you digest, how you eliminate, your heart rate, your heartbeat, your body temperature. It regulates your thyroid, your hormones, your digestive system, your lower back, every single aspect of your body. However, it won't happen immediately. You need to do it. This is my creed. You have to do it every day, several times a day, every day, as though your life depends upon it. Because medicine, if you want to go for full dosage medicine, go to the hospital and get your super strong painkillers, take one of them and feel like you're out, you're completely gone at that point, mentally at least, but you will get satisfaction from your pain. Versus what happens if you are taking something every day in a small dilution, every hour you applied something that helps you with your pain to the point where it builds up in your system in microdoses, to the point where the pain disappears, and you continue to do it even when you're not in pain, and then you find that you're no longer having the pain that you had before, because the pain came from your life. And once you shift your thoughts about pain, it may never come back, because you're now telling you what's happened to your body in the process of smelling it is that it's reset other things, not just the inflammation. Oh, by the way, all pain comes from inflammation. So if you deal with the pain, you deal with the inflammation. And what happens to the body is that it resets in all aspects. So you may even get to the underlying source of the pain, which could be anxiety driven. In my aromatic life of 37 years, I have used essential oils every single day, several times a day. I've taken an aromatic bath every single day, sometimes twice. I put essential oils on my pillow, I put them, they're all over me. And I know they're all over me because the postmaster tells me every time I go to the post office that they're all over me. And whenever I walk around with these oils on me, whether I go to yoga, I have become a human difference. I bring the benefits of my aromatic life to other people. And I have yet to have anybody say to me, what is that smell? I don't like it. And in my yoga studio, they're still burning Indian incense, which is completely dipped in petrochemical materials. Some people may prefer that, maybe not. But in the aromatic way of living, the aromatic way of life, to use essential oils once would be like eating a carrot thinking that's a diet. You have to do it consistently. And the one thing that people don't do good at, including myself, is consistency.
Yes.
Because you might leave it at home, not because you wanted to, but because some part of your brain says, we're not doing this. I'm leaving this at home, I'm going to hide it, I'm going to do something with it. But it's finding now which essential oils work for your configuration. So your configuration is unique. The one thing I learned in my life is that there's no two people alike. So if you hear a dose from a hospital, or you hear a dose from a pharmacist, or a dose from a herbalist, or a dose from a naturopath that tells you take 3 a day, that might not be you. You might need a much smaller, a much larger. So finding out what works for you is the key. So when I thought about my system of putting these aromatic remedies together, I thought, I have 100. I wonder if they fit into some kind of order. So I thought, well, maybe I should create some categories of what I think health is all about. And the categories are aspects of ourselves. Because if you think the pain is coming from an injury, or it's coming from an old injury, or a wound, or stress or anxiety, you might be missing the whole picture. The pain may be originating in some other part of your body that's filtering through where you're feeling the pain. So when you treat it, you're not really treating the source, you're treating the injury with ibuprofen or whatever other painkillers you're taking. So I came up with 10 categories that I thought would be helpful. First of all, there's a physical category. There are physical ailments in the category, whether it be pain, muscle and joints, whether it be for the lungs. Physical means some aspect of the physical body that needs some attention. And it's easy to spot the physical because they often connect with some form of discomfort. The second one I thought about in terms of a category would be mood. How many moods are there? When you think about moods, I got a list here. Just quickly run through the moods. Let's pass another one around. The moods: anger, depression, the blues, fear, grief, joy, sadness. Anybody relate to any of those? Okay, you got them all the time, right?
All the time.
All mixed in.
All mixed in.
And by the way, thank you for saying that, because we're wired for those things. We're not just sad. If somebody says, oh my God, you're such a depressing person. I'm sorry, I was looking at you. You're such a depressing person. You go, I'm not really. When you're a sad person too. But the point is that these emotions and these moods are constantly changing depending on what you're doing, what you had for breakfast, how well you slept, and what's going on in your life regarding your workload, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever that is. Third category, release. Release, if you think about the lymphatic system, when you think about the word lymphoma, that's a cancer that's now attaching itself to the lymphatic system. And what does the lymphatic system do? It's your releasing process. It's to release all the stagnation and all the fluids in your body that you no longer need. When you also think about release, I've got detox, lymphatic, a blend called release, something called weightless for weight control. And that is, weight is not weight. It's something you haven't released. And it may be energetic. It may be a comfort that you feel. It could be hormonal, which is typical. You go into menopause, are you going to gain weight? Yes, but does everybody gain weight? No. No. Correct. All we can say, the category of release in a society like we're in is a big deal. Why? Because we are hoarders, but not of furniture, of emotions, of feelings, of sadness, grief, and all the things that we just built up inside ourselves to the point where we're getting symptoms in our lymphatic system based on not just what we're eating and lifestyle, but all the things we never let go of. Next category. The feminine. which is tonight's topic, right? Tonight's topic is the female. Talking about breast cancer. The mother of my son died of breast cancer 2 years ago. And I observed from a distance all the things that she did that either contributed to her condition in the positive or contributed in the negative. She's not here today, so I'm not God, so I wouldn't know what happened in the process. All I know is when all these categories of energy collide, if we don't work through all the aspects of ourselves, we will have a disorder that could be a disease, it could be an inflammation. It just happens to be that it may appear in your breast, or it may appear in some other part of your life or your body that you're unaware of. It could be internal. Anybody have a colonoscopy today?
Not today.
Today you might find a polyps, which is an indication of maybe something malignant. And what's that doing down there? It can't be seen, it's hidden. Is it important that you have that examination? Of course it is. The feminine is all about what is the main center point of the feminine, of the woman. What is right at the center of all of it? Possibly the ability to love, to give and receive love.
To give.
To yourself, to somebody else. Will we withhold? Anybody withhold today? Withholding something. Love is at the center of it. And how can that act out? So on the feminine, I have expression. That's the throat chakra. What is it you didn't say today that you wanted to, that you stuffed? And what did you not say yesterday, the day before that, the first marriage that failed, your mother who was angry at you, now passed on, you're holding on. And times that by 100, you'll start to see how the feminine part of the male and the female is not helping you in terms of your well-being.
Can I just ask you, where does that show itself in the body? What you just said about holding on and the throat chakra.
Hormonal imbalance, gynecological challenges, ovarian cysts, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and all the other aspects of what part of the body is cancer attacking. Every single gentle, loving part of yourself, every part of you that's, your ovaries are just dangling in complete unison, where something else may be happening. What else you got in there? You got hot flashes, you got menopause, you got perimenopause, you got after menopause, you've got weight gain. Is it possible that when we're not in balance, that we make these things a big deal versus they could be in a smaller? And another category would be the masculine. Anybody know any good men?
I do.
I have, but you wouldn't want to meet him. He's not like me. So the masculine is about what? Strength, courage, kindness, communication, groundedness, fiscal responsibility, sensitiveness, tuning in. These aspects of the male that have disappeared in the male, and also within the female too, whether either you're stepping up and doing that role. If you're in a role reversal, then no wonder you're having gynecological challenges, because you're playing the men's role into a body that's designed for something different, possible. So for the masculine, awakening, fatigue, focus, male balance, and peace. I very rarely meet a man who's peaceful and not running on something to do with his mind or his other parts, which is difficult, because you live in Miami.
Yeah,
like a fashion show out there every single day. Next category, mental psychological. Aren't we a little nuts?
Yeah.
So we don't like to show it, right? But we know we're a little nuts. In the psychological, duality, forgiveness, memory problems, aspects of personal power, PTSD, all these things that affect us every single day of our lives, that we're navigating constantly through, that affect us in every single aspect of what we do. The way we think, the illogical thinking, the conclusions we come to, because our mind is overwhelmed with something else and you can't put two and two together. But I'm getting older and I'm having new memory lapses. But I notice when I sleep better, my memory's better. And I also notice if I go to yoga or I do different things, my memory's better. If you're not doing those things, as you get older, it's difficult to pull those memories together because the brain is overtaxed, overworked. So mental, psychological. And another category is stress related. So stress is everywhere, correct? So I've got here in my stress category, calming, sleep, dreaming, meditation, stress relief, relaxation. Is relaxation different than calming? Sure. And is anxiety different than stress relief? Sure. It's a different component of our stress. And we're not all wired the same. Somebody's internally stressed, somebody's externally stressed. Somebody has a higher heart rate, higher blood pressure. Somebody else is totally chilled out because they're in complete denial. But they're feeling the stress inside because that's what they learned. If you feel it inside, what's that doing to your insides? It wants to get out, but it doesn't know how because you were never taught how to process things in a safe environment, right? And safety is really key. But what does the feminine need? The feminine needs safety. And without safety, you have nothing. It means that the stress you're holding on to cannot be expressed because either a partner or somebody in your life, or maybe you're alone, you have nowhere to go with those feelings which have to be investigated so they don't curdle. Because feelings and emotions become toxic when they curdle, when you're holding on to it and feeding it, to the point where you feel nauseous from the experience. And that's happening where? In your digestive system. Which is why if you had anxiety and stress and holding on and lymphatic stagnation, you're going to want to dump it out from here. And dumping it out is not a good way to deal with your release. Dumping it out means if you want to keep dumping it out, you may end up with colitis. You may end up where you can't hold anything in anymore because you've gone to the extreme. You've held on for so many years and now you can't hold it in. Well, that's one of them things. It's a happy talk, isn't it? And then recovery. Anybody relate to recovery? The word recovery. Recovery. Aren't we all recovering from something? And you don't have to be a full-blown drug dealer. I know some of you are, but that's beside the point. You don't have to be a drug dealer, or you don't have to be in addiction, and you don't have to be in a clinic or recovery. What are you? Ask yourself, what am I recovering from? What is it in my life that I am not recovered from? Was it grief? Was it sadness? Was it loss? So my category there would be for recovery. So addiction, imbalance, compulsion, not being grounded, the lack of prayer, smoking. You know, the smoking cessation blend. And you don't have to be a smoker to use that blend, because tobacco is a very therapeutic aspect of. I have a tobacco oil that can be very helpful in helping you feel less stress. That's why they put nicotine patches on. It's the nicotine that you're doing, but the smell of tobacco is enough, just like the smell of coffee. You can smell coffee and not want to drink coffee afterwards, and you can smell something like oranges and not eat afterwards either. You can smell a blend that has all those citrus notes that attach to the receptors, and those receptors get filled, and 5 minutes later you feel satisfied in your hunger, which means there's a way to lose weight by using fragrance. There's a way to recover using fragrance. There's a way to be feminine and masculine and all the other things. However, how do you find out what's right for you?
Good question.
That's a longer answer. But unfortunately, we have to find a way to find our own recovery process. And whether it's a mixture of food, whether it's a mixture of lifestyle, whether you're... Who takes a bath here? Okay, 1, 2. Who only has a shower? Okay. Who has a bath but doesn't use it? I guarantee you don't use it because you don't have the time.
That is true.
You're going to die very dirty. Who has the time, right? Who has the time? Because you've got to run the bath. First of all, in my world, I got to clean the bath first. Okay. And especially women, right? They're clean. They're like, they'll be sanding it. They got a sanding thing going on. They've got the vacuum cleaner, and they're sparkling, and it's midnight.